Recording in progress.
Perfect, perfect. So I welcome everyone to this Zoom and where we will be speaking a little bit about hormones and how they affect our overall health and what we can do to kind of streamline and really be able to balance out our hormones in various instances, whether we are going through pregnancy, postpartum pregnancy, we have some sort of thyroid issue that kind of throws our hormones out of balance, or even when you're going, as you're getting older, when we're going through menopause, what does that look like as far as hormones and what can we do? What are some tools that we can utilize to help us get through those hormonal changes and effects. So I do have two very special people with me. I'm the third. I consider myself special too. Here with us tonight to just kind of talk about what their experiences have been with various hormonal issues. So I do want to let you know that we are health coaches, just sharing our personal experiences and what has worked for us. We are not medical professionals, and this discussion is not intended to provide any kind of medical advice. And as always, you should always please consult your doctor before making any kind of health or lifestyle changes. They are the professionals that would be able to guide you and be able to look at your whole self and be able to give you guidance on that. Okay, so we're going to get right on into this. I want to respect everyone's time and be able to get through the Zoom while providing you with so much information. And so my first guest here tonight is she was a guidance counselor at the school where my children attended, and she had decided to join this program. Oh my goodness, it's 4 years now. And the program that I coach for, and she decided to also coach for the program. And I'm just so excited that she is going to be sharing a little bit about herself tonight and what kind of hormonal changes she's going through at the moment. I'm so excited for her to share this. So Angela, please come off mute and share a little bit about your journey and where you are today with that journey. Oh, I'm so excited.
Hey guys, good evening. I don't know where you're at, what time zone you're in, but I am on the East Coast, so it's 8:30 my time. So good night. It's nighttime here. And thank you, Fran, for giving me the opportunity to share and speak on such an important topic. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to share and Roseanne has to share as well, because you guys are so incredible, such incredible leaders, and you have so much to share, and I'm just really excited for you as well. So for me, the season I'm in, yes, it was just a little over 3.5 years ago that I actually finally said yes to program. Fran and I had spoken over 4 years ago, and I kind of chickened out. And then I just continued to stay in those bad habits. But when I finally said yes, I was in a great season. I was rocking. I had all my kids, or so I thought. That was a season that I was in, and it was just really put on my heart that I should expand my family. My husband and I should expand my family. So I am just about 20 weeks pregnant right now. We're at the halfway mark. Really excited. I'll show you. The girls were asking me to stand up before, so I'll show you right now how we're looking at the moment. Fran, I know, is sharing my picture, so I don't know if you can even see me, but we are growing. Yep, this is me right now, a little bump going on. And I will say that this time around is so different than last time. First of all, I did have twins, so that's a whole different ballgame in itself. But I really didn't know what healthy habits looked like in that season of my life. This was pre-program that I had done to lose all the weight and get in a healthy mind space, because that's the key. So the things I was eating ice cream every day and cookies and candy and cereal, like bowls and bowls of cereal, like one after the next after the next. I did not understand what it meant to feed my body properly, not just for me, but for my babies. With the grace of God, I had a healthy pregnancy. My kids were healthy and all that. But after I had them, I had a long way to go in my health. I mean, I was trying to work out. I had pain in my feet. I was a mess. I was a mess for a long time, until I found the health program that we do coach for. And my kids were almost 3 years old at the time. So, almost 3 years later, when I finally decided to get healthy. So this time around, I knew better. I knew what I needed to do. And ironically, last time around, I didn't have any, I wasn't nauseous or anything, but this time I was nauseous if I didn't eat every 2 hours, right? Now, if you know anything about the program that we coach for, and really many dietitians and nutritionists swear by eating small meals throughout your day, at least 5 to 6 meals minimum, eating all day long, smaller meals that helps to stabilize your blood sugar levels, your metabolism, and all of that. So for me, if I didn't eat that way during my pregnancy, I felt sick. Now I could have eaten anything, guys. I could have had a handful of M&Ms and I would have felt fine afterwards, right? But I knew better to make healthier choices this time around. So I focused on proteins and healthy fats and good carbs, right? Sweet potatoes and rice, and using tools as well through our program, the tools, our meals, mini meals and fuelings, because truthfully, I've been tracking my food again. I stopped for a minute and I started again. And I've been sharing with Fran, it's really hard for me to get in the amount of calories that I need to intake being 20 weeks pregnant. I was going to say 20 months, not 20 months. Oh my gosh, 20 weeks pregnant. Okay. So I have to fall in that 2,200 calorie range to have like that healthy amount of calories ish. And I'm really struggling to get there. If it weren't for our mini meals and the tools, really, it helps me to get in the amount of protein I need because, guys, 6 times a day, I mean, that's like hundreds of calories each meal. So for me, it really helped me to stay accountable and on track and have a healthier pregnancy where I had someone tell me tonight, because I serve at church, I just met her and she found out I was pregnant. She's like, "You don't look like you're 20 weeks pregnant." And I'm like, "Thank you." Where you knew I was pregnant last time around, like even way before 20 weeks. Yes, 2 babies, but this baby's only 11 ounces, guys, so it's all me. So it really taught me how to fuel my body properly, but also how to take care of this baby that I'm growing inside of me, how I can nourish him well in this season. So eating often, drinking and hydrating my body correctly, like utilizing, we have amino acids, and I'm using electrolyte drinks and things like that, which for a minute during this journey, I was getting really dehydrated really fast. And just a side note for anybody that has a filtration system in their house, they're really good to take out all the bad stuff, but they're also really good at taking out the good stuff. So I was drinking a ton of water that had no minerals or any good things in it. So I had to quickly pivot and change that around as well. So even though I'm making healthy choices, I had to learn and grow through the process. So it really has been a learning experience for me being pregnant again. One, being so much older, being in that geriatric pregnancy, where they say there's all kinds of, worries and potential things. But I went to the specialist the other day and she said that I am rocking, that I'm looking good, baby's looking good, and she has no worries, which really, makes me feel so much better because 7 years ago when I had my twins and I wasn't in that phase, that's not where I was at. I was a hot mess. So no matter what season you're in, you can make healthy choices, right? Even just as simple as starting with eating smaller meals, making sure you're getting in protein in each meal, making sure you're drinking your water. I set alarms when it's time for me to eat. Guess what I'm doing first? I'm taking a nice big swig of my water to make sure that I'm getting in my water throughout my day, and then I'm eating. I won't eat until I drink some water, and I have this with me all the time, and I'm refilling it and having probably 3 of these a day, so it's like 90 ounces. So that is really something that I have learned throughout the last few years that honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little scary before I got like or when I first got pregnant. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to handle this? And truth be told, I feel so blessed and thankful that I learned healthy habits so that I can implement them well in a season where, yeah, I'm gaining weight, but it's for a good reason, right? I'm taking care of the baby I'm growing in my body and I'm not gaining too much weight, right? There's that difference. So, thank you so much for allowing me to share. I know that there are a lot of pregnant ladies out there. So, if you have anyone that you know in your life that is in this season, you should connect them with the person who invited you so that we can really help and bless them as well in the season where they can be healthy in their pregnancy and not regret it later on like I did last time. Thanks, guys.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing, Ange. And I also know that another healthy habit that I know that she incorporates is the healthy habit of sleep. So there are times that, I do remind her too, sometimes like, make sure you take a nap. Make sure you take, she still has two little ones and they get up in the middle of the night. And, sometimes that sleep is interrupted even by how many times she has to use the bathroom throughout the night because of the pregnancy. And so having that healthy sleep is going to be a crucial part of it too. So, thank you so much for sharing that. And so now that kind of takes me all down to the next person, which is me. So, wanted to share a little bit about my journey as well. So I have been on an incredible health journey myself for years now, and just kind of like doing two things at the same time here. But I was able to lose 85 pounds and have been able to keep it off for over 3 years now. But I will say, when menopause hit, I realized that even with the best of habits, my body was changing in ways that I just wasn't prepared for. It like hit me like a ton of bricks, and I just didn't know what to expect. I remember my mom going through menopause. I remember very little about what she went through. She doesn't remember anything at all. But suddenly the things that had worked for me before weren't working the same way anymore. My energy tanked, my brain felt foggy, my body held on to weight differently. I felt like I was just working harder with just less progress. It was frustrating. But through a little bit of trial, error, and even the right guidance, I found ways to navigate this season of my life. And I am embracing it. And I'm embracing it because I know that if I can get through this menopause, like I feel like sometimes I say I feel like I'm in a boxing match and I'm just boxing it away and just keep fighting and fighting and fighting against it. So I'm just going to embrace it now and just learn the tools to get me over to the other side. And so tonight I wanted to share a few key things that have helped me regain control and feel like me again. So when did I realize this journey began? Honestly, I had been gaining and losing the same 5 to 8 pounds, and I couldn't understand it. At the time, I had started working with a trainer and a dietitian. The dietitian came along with the trainer, and he was even trying, the dietitian was trying various things. We were always utilizing my programs, foods and stuff like that, because that's what I had been used to. And so he was able to incorporate it. He was happy that I had a lot of very high protein choices that he could easily just add into my plan. And yet I was gaining and losing the same 5 to 8 pounds, and they couldn't even understand it. So, finally in March of 2024, which coming about a year, I did a live one morning at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't sleep and I would wake up in the middle of the night and could not go back to sleep. And someone had mentioned to me, maybe you could have menopause. And then I found myself one night just my swimming pool, my bed turned into a swimming pool because of the night sweats. The night sweats were for real. And then came the anxiety that went through the roof. Now, does that sound familiar to anybody on this call right now? So, yep. Oh, yeah, girl. So I spoke to Roseanne, who is on the call right now. I know that she had been in the fitness industry for years, and that she had a lot of clients that may have gone through that. So she had recommended some things. She's like, take some 5-HTP, take some GABA, and then through some research myself, I always like to research myself first. Also learned about ashwagandha. So those are the things that kind of got me started. And my sleep improved. I didn't have any more night sweats, which was great. And my anxiety were gone. So I'm very thankful for Roseanne for those tips. But then I noticed the weight gain, especially in my midsection. And I wasn't really changing anything about my eating habits. Yeah, I would have a binge here or there, but nothing so extraordinary where I should have been gaining that much. I did learn that about 10 pounds of that was from muscle gain because I had been working out. This is at around September that I just started noticing it. And then that muscle gain, it was about 10 pounds of it was from muscle. But what about the rest? Where on earth did that come from? So it really, really confused me. That's when the depression had started setting in, because now this is yet another symptom that I was dealing with and I didn't know where it was coming from. So that inability to lose a single pound, no matter the efforts that I had combined with those, one of my coaching mentors had suggested that I see her hormone specialist. And boy, it was one of the best decisions I ever made, working with this particular specialist. So she is based out of Texas and she does teledoc. But the things that she has done, I had seen my doctor back in April or May, and she had no answers for me. She didn't even tell me that I was in menopause, where I was in the thick of it. She goes, "Yeah, you can be on the onset." So, I loved the fact that the specialist actually tested my hormones and not and wasn't just guessing at what could be going on based upon my symptoms. So I learned that things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, even in women, and thyroid function really played a huge role in how we feel and how our body responds to not only food, but also exercise. So instead of just pushing harder, I started working smarter by really addressing those imbalances. And it's made such a world of a difference. Now, if you've been struggling despite doing all of the right things, this could be something that's worth looking into, because she really just began. I've been on this for like a month now, really began balancing out all of my hormones. I kind of threw something in the mix. I was also on birth control pill that I came off of. The birth control pill was more for reproductive disorder that I have than it was for birth control, because that ship sailed before I even had my kids, but that's another story in and of itself. But it could be something worth looking into, because that me coming off of that birth control, I'm not feeling myself going back to the beginning, which was great. Now, another big shift that, for me, was focusing more on strength training, because that's something that I had learned pretty early on, just in general, that as we age, we naturally lose muscle mass. And then what I've learned is that when we go through menopause, we lose it, as well. Okay, we lose that muscle mass as well, and that slows down our metabolism. So I used to think that cardio was the key, was doing so much cardio, was running, training for 5Ks, running on high inclines. And then I learned that lifting weights, not crazy heavy, like I'm not doing like 100-pound weights or anything like that, but just challenging enough where there's some sort of resistance, that has helped me maintain my muscle and boost my metabolism. So, and even, believe it or not, it even balances out your hormones as well. The best part of that is that I'm not spending hours and hours and hours at the gym. I just utilize 4 focused workouts each week, and that has been a game changer. I actually found a website that provides you with free videos on workouts and how to do various strength training depending on the body part. And I utilize that and I come up with my own program. They do say that compound workouts work best, and that's when you're working out more than just one muscle, but you're working out a compound of muscles together. So like if you're doing chest, you're doing the whole chest area, and you may be including biceps or triceps or whatever it may be, shoulders. So when you're doing compound movements, that happens to help out even more. Then one of the biggest changes that I had to make, because I realized that the workouts just wasn't doing it alone, I had to also make changes to the way that I was eating. Not just how much, okay? It wasn't just about how much I was eating. So I used to think that keeping my carbs low was the best approach, because that's what puts you in a fat burning state. But through this journey of menopause, I'm learning that as our hormones shift, so do what we eat matters, right? Our nutritional needs matter as well. So for me, that meant I had to be a little bit more strategic with my macros, especially on the days that I lift weights. So when we go through menopause, our bodies just becomes so much more sensitive to stress. And that includes stress from workouts. So this is something that I had learned through research. Strength training is great for your muscle and your metabolism, great for it. But if I wasn't fueling my body properly, my body was responding with higher cortisol levels. So, and cortisol is basically your stress hormone. Now, here's the thing, when your cortisol stays too high for too long, it just makes it harder for you to lose that weight. And what happens is you all of a sudden you go into what's called insulin resistance that can lead to your blood sugar crashing or making your cravings worse, which is probably what was happening when I was having such horrible food, like food noise. I'd be sitting in the middle of a Zoom and I would want Parmesan cheese. Like at 11 o'clock in the morning, I kid you not, like who craves Parmesan cheese at 11 o'clock in the morning? I do because I'm in menopause and I probably had some crashes going on. So instead of avoiding carbs, I'm using them intentionally now. So on training days, I've increased them to about 20 to 40 grams more per day. And they from the research that I read, it helps lower cortisol after my workouts and it gives my muscle the fuel that it needs to be able to recover. That, along with amino acids, is helping considerably. Our amino acids do have a little bit of carbs in that. And then on top of all of that, our whey protein, which has like 25 grams of protein in it, that breaks down into amino acids. So these are the things that are feeding my muscles, right? So I'm getting all of that fuel from a little bit from carbs, a little bit from protein, and then also healthy fats. So what was my biggest lesson here? That it's not about eating less, but it's about eating smarter. Okay. So learning how to work with the way my body was changing instead of fighting them, that's what's been a huge game changer. Now, um, what I wasn't expecting is that the stress that my body was going through when I was working out, right? When I was strength training. Well, if you think about it, menopause is already challenging your hormones. But if you're always running on stress, just regular stress, not only from workout, but from the kids, who's going to bring the kids to school here? And I got to pick up one kid from there and drop the other kid off here. And oh my God, work. And oh my goodness, the bills. So when you have a lot of stress, it just makes it harder. So I had to learn how to slow down a little bit, focus on better sleeping, using very simple stress reducing tools like deep breathing and rest days for workouts, and even really replacing some of really intense workouts with like lower intense movements when my body needed it. It's crazy how these little small adjustments can make such a huge difference in how I feel. Like I feel more energy since I started doing that, right? So that's all I have. I share all of this because I know I'm not the only one who has felt frustrated, tired, or even stuck despite trying to do all the right things. The good news is that you can feel better. So you can regain that energy, that strength, and that confidence in the season of life. It just takes the right adjustment. And if anything, we'll chat a little bit more towards the end after Roseanne goes. But that's what I have to share for tonight. But I do want to introduce Roseanne. Like she has helped me considerably through this journey as well. Just listening to me really, really, really complain all the time about it. And she would remind me constantly, Fran, it's your hormones, Fran, Fran, it's your hormones. Like she's really been. I've known Roseanne, oh my gosh, almost since we were teenagers, really, and have wanted her to join in on this coaching opportunity that I was given because I think that she's so fitness and health oriented that I knew she would be amazing. But I can't wait for her to share. I hope she's going to share a little bit about how deceptive sometimes when you're seeing a person, how deceptive that could be and how your thoughts can be so deceptive. So Roseanne, come on and share your story, please.
So I don't have the belly to stand up like Angela to present a baby to you guys today. So I don't know what I have to offer, but I'm hoping that something that I say can resonate with some of you. Um, So I struggle with Hashimoto's, right? It's an autoimmune disease. If anybody on the call suffers from any type of autoimmune, you know the right, you know the frustration, you know the struggle. Doctor after doctor, nobody could really help you. You were lucky to even get the right medication if you're on medication for anything. And so my journey actually began with Fran to help my husband lose some weight, but I was dying of desperation. I was in the fitness industry for over 20 years. I think when Fran looked at me, she was like, oh, well, she doesn't really need weight loss. I've heard her say that 1,000 times, but I was struggling. And so I was doing, I am going to say all the right things wrong. And that's how I'm going to say it, right? So I was fasting. I was training, because I had to work, right? So I was training, a bunch of hours throughout the week. I was eating clean. I was I meditate. I practice mindfulness. I teach mindfulness at my school. I'm actually a counselor at a high school. Um, I went gluten-free for the year. I don't know if you guys know anything about thyroid or that, but that's the big one. Go gluten-free because it replicates the thyroid hormone. I did all the things, and my numbers were just getting worse and worse and worse. And then the weight gain started to climb. And so I don't have the fortunate story of, yeah, I'm going to go through menopause, and that's when my hormones are going to hit. I've been battling this my whole life, I feel like, trying to figure this out, right? Always the person in the group fitness class teaching the class that wasn't the smallest person in the room, right? So, why was this happening? Why am I so exhausted? Why am I stressed out? Why is my anxiety out of control? All of the things that you guys are dealing with, either for pregnancy or for menopause, is how I live, right? And so finally, later on, they decided to put me on medication. I resistantly had to go on because I found out I was pregnant and I miscarried a whole bunch of times before. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go on the meds. Went on the meds. It was life changing. I was like, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, right? Finally, I was able to live like a half of a normal person. And then 2 years later, I had some awful post-COVID response to, I don't know, I'm going to say maybe perhaps it was one of the shots. I don't know. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They thought I was having a stroke. I had to go into the hospital. I'm like 48 years old, right? So now I'm in the hospital. They can't figure this out. They take me off the thyroid medication and I go into a thyroid storm. Now, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but your hair starts falling out. I could barely keep my eyes open at work. I was not functional. And this went on for 2 years. Now, as I'm watching the numbers, because every time I go to the doctor, they would run my blood and the numbers would come out in the red and they'd send me to the thyroid doctor, which would tell me my thyroid was moving too fast. And it wasn't. It was moving slow, but the numbers were inverted. And so it started to look like Graves' disease. Now, I know how to read the numbers, so I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna put me on medication and they're gonna kill me. Like I was really nervous. And so I went down, because that's what I do. I spiraled down the rabbit hole and I started to biohack, that's what we're gonna call it, when we manipulate things with our body, different things. And I was like, you know what? I got to eliminate sugar as a grand experiment to reset my hormones. And so I went keto for X amount of time with intermittent fasting and finally got my numbers somewhere in the green, but at 800 calories a day, keto, training 3 to 4 or 5 times a week, I could not lose a pound. So there's obviously a problem, right? So now I'm seeing the numbers here. So Fran comes to me about this program for my husband. I'm like, fine, I'll try it just because whatever he needs to do it. I'm game, right? I cleared it. I cleared it. I checked the nutrition. I was like, all right, this is going to clear. And so I came on program. And when I came on program, I realized a whole bunch of things. So this is actually what I want to share with you. Not what happened as a result of the program, but what do people actually need to do to start to really re-regulate their hormones? That's why you're all here, right? And so one of the things that I needed that I wasn't getting was proper nutrition. I was eating clean, I just wasn't getting enough nutrients. And they needed to come from food because I was supplementing, it wasn't working. And so I needed to have these incremental hits throughout the day because my body was using everything that I had when I was at the gym training. And so it wasn't working. I literally was starving to death at some hours. And then I was probably binge eating. I would almost call it binge eating because I was stacking my body with a whole bunch of food, thinking that that was going to replenish what I was losing, and it wasn't working. So proper nutrition became key, right? And understanding that after 3 hours, the body's burning out its muscle mass and really giving ourselves enough protein. I'm probably going to repeat everything Fran just said, and we did not rehearse this. So you have to have enough protein in your diet. You got to eat, Angela said it before, every 3 hours. Um, you have to make sure that you're getting proper nutrition in place, the correct supplementation. And, when we talked, Fran mentioned before about try this for your hormones, try that. It needs to be the correct thing for you. There could be a whole bunch of things that you read about, but it doesn't mean that that's right for you. And so you have to figure out what is right for you. And there's tons of ways to test and see. And Fran mentioned something about testing the hormones. There's labs that I use that we can test our Fran called it amino acid. And that's what I'm going to refer to it as right now. But what we're talking about is micronutrients that your body needs, right? There's tests that you can do to see what's missing. Our amino acids literally have 9 of the essential ones in there to replace them. So if your body's missing it, then you need to have it. Otherwise, the body cannot heal, it cannot function, right? So all that processed food by default just went away because I was eating, lean and green meals throughout the day. I already practice stress management. And guys, we cannot talk about hormones without talking about stress management. It's almost impossible. My mom just passed, and I want to be quick because I know it's 9:04. My mom just passed in October. And so I am now going back into having to figure out at this level of stress, how do I need to keep my body out of this? Because it's almost impossible, right? So how do I keep the stress out of my body? What do these practices need to look like on a daily basis to keep my body safe? Because if stress goes out of control, for me, I am not on any medication. Right now, my thyroid is working perfectly the last 3.5 years, no meds. I cannot afford, just like you guys cannot afford, for the hormones to go wild because you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it in your sleep. You're going to feel it with your anxiety. You're going to feel it all throughout your body because as much as no one wants to talk about this, hormones are real. That's why you're all here. You know it, right? And so whenever Fran would say, I would be like, Fran, hormones are real. They're real. You know what I mean? Because we can't see them and we almost think we're going crazy. We almost feel like we're losing our mind. Why can't I get out of bed? Why am I so exhausted? Why is my anxiety so high, right? And what feeds that generally is improper nutrition. And so we really want to focus in on what does proper nutrition look like? How can we feed the good bacteria in your gut that's going to create a sound immune system? And how can we get our body healing and functioning again? With a lot of the clients that we had on program, what I did notice, Fran, with a bunch of different people, it actually happened last week again, is that a woman got a period again. So they start program, they get proper nutrition, and all of a sudden they start regulating, their periods start regulating. It's almost like we're reversing the cycle back. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen for somebody that's 70 years old. You know what I mean? That's way through it. But the healing of the body and getting the body working for us is going to be really important. So what I would suggest is not to ignore any of these signs and symptoms because no one else knows what to do. People don't know what to do. I went to my doctor. I went to people in the fitness industry. I went and no one could tell me what I needed to do to take this extra 10 pounds off my body. And it wasn't about the weight. It was about what does health look like and how can I reestablish health for myself, right? And how do we get the body working for us instead of it working for us working for it? The other last thing I wanted to say was Fran is exactly right. Sometimes more is not better. And I was a living example of somebody that was trying to outrun a bad diet. And when I say bad, I don't even mean bad in the terms of like Oreo cookies. Like I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I just wasn't eating what I needed to eat for my body to function. I wasn't getting enough vegetables every single day. I wasn't getting enough nutrient dense food in my body every day. And that's the key. It's the consistency of it. I was doing it here and there. And then I was fasting because I didn't want to gain weight. And so, I was buying into the hype of what was out there, and I thought it was working until I realized what was really working. And so, there is definitely hope when it comes to autoimmune, when it comes to thyroid issues, when it comes to menopause, when it comes to healthy pregnancies. My best friend literally had gestational diabetes and was able to go through this without medication, following our lean and greens with some of the fuelings from the program, and did never needed insulin, tracked her numbers, and had a beautiful, they said a big baby. Baby was 5.5 pounds, Angela. So had a beautiful, healthy baby with gestational diabetes the whole time. So there is hope for these things. We literally have testimony after testimony of people that are getting healthier by the day. So hopefully, if you have any questions, please reach out to the person that invited you to this, because there's probably going to be tools that they can share with you that they can really help you change the trajectory of your journey. Thank you, guys.
Wow, thank you so much. I tell you that I knew that this was going to provide you with a lot of information. If anything that we shared tonight just resonated for you, whether it has to do with you personally or a loved one or a friend, we would love to just chat more and help you or your friend or family member figure out what could work for them. Because nobody, I always say, nobody should have to suffer when there is a solution out there. And like the three of us are proof that we can kind of keep our hormones in check and be able to really, really live a healthier life and not allow those hormones to totally take control, because hormones are for real. They really are for real. But in the meantime, I thank each and every one of you for attending. I'm going to stop recording if I remember how to do it. Oh, here it is. I'm going to stop recording.